someone is planning this, like hydration is part.
Almost doesn't count. Almost heard you saying you
Hey, ready, set, go. It's time to hit the mark. This that show you need to know about. We set ourselves apart. Sports talk at the pinnacle. We got all the knowledge covering every level, helping these young men get to college. Got the coverage of a DB, vision of a QB coming at you like a DN. Let all of that sink in. Working in the weight room, we can't take no days off. Doing drills when they not looking, that's what make us stand out. Don't worry about how much time is left, we got it planned out. Execution, elite footwork, nasty when we running routes. Accuracy off the chain, we've been on it from the start. Reaching for the sky, hitting the bullseye, we on the mark.
What it do? We up. It's Epic Wednesday. You know what it is. The On Your Mark Show, powered and sponsored by Epic Sports Apparel. Every player compete live from the Fishbowl Radio Network, right here in Bedford, Texas. We in the building, man. Listen, we're gonna talk to our girl Wendy from IBT Therapy. She's back.
How's it going, everyone?
Listen, we got some things to talk about today. Preventative things, some new things that she's working on, as well as Coach Jay is in the building. You know what I'm saying? Coast to Coast Athletics, Epic Sports Apparel CEO. How's everybody doing? Wendy, how you been doing?
You know me, causing trouble, taking over the world. The usual. The usual.
Well, listen, we're glad to have you back in the building. Coach, what's
appreciate
good?
Always, man. Happy to be here.
No
Happy
doubt.
to be here.
No doubt.
Beautiful day, man.
Absolutely.
It's great outside. Let's get it.
Yo, the weather's great outside. You know what I'm
beautiful.
saying? Beautiful, man. You know, sun is shining. We're in the building, in the fishbowl, as we always are every Wednesday. So, Wendy, first of all, you know, for listeners who hadn't seen you the first time around, kind of go, you know, where you came from as far as getting into what you do and break it down a little bit what IBT does.
I want to thank y'all for having me on again. It's a privilege and a blessing to get to be here, to get to talk to your audience. And so my name is Wendy. I'm a sports therapist, strength trainer. I've been a licensed massage therapist for 10 years, strength trainer 15 years. Before that, I was an aircraft mechanic in the U.S. Air Force. Worked on the B-52 bombers in the flight line, Minot, North Dakota. So when we complain about the heat, I just remember negative 50 degrees, middle of the winter time, and I'm a little more okay with it. So I'm here because I'm really into our sports therapy here in Texas. The gym that I train at, I've been fortunate, just happened to turn into a football mecca over the years. The owner, the founder, very much into the Texas football situation, and with my experience and the level of coaching that is near me, we ended up kind of mixing and matching, and it ended up working out really well. So I've been fortunate to start working with a whole bunch of awesome high school athletes, especially these football kids. Like, these young men are just, I don't even have the words, honestly. Like, they're inspiring. They got all this fight in them. If anything, my concern is trying to aim it properly so we don't burn them out too quickly, because the power is there. The trick is to have it, you know, aimed properly and not burn them out before they get to the point where they want to go. So I've gotten to meet y'all through a bunch of different people. It's all about all these resources and everybody connecting. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, definitely, you know, we've been keeping in touch, you know, kind of seeing what you've been doing in the background. You know, I think that preventative therapy, and Coach talks about these things all the time, is trying to get to know your body within. And I think that's very important. And, you know, that's why I wanted to bring you back in, to kind of reiterate that, because, you know, we're kind of almost at the midway point of the season. Professionals really just getting started, but high school's about halfway. College is just getting really kicked off. And, you know, you see things injury-wise that could be prevented, and that's why I wanted to kind of bring you back around. But, Coach, talk about trying to get to know your body to have it perform at the highest level that you want it to.
Well, like we always say, that your best ability is availability, and that's in football. You know, if you're injured, you're no service to your team, you know, while you're getting back to health. So to limit the length of injuries is potentially up to how well you prepare and who you have helping you prepare from inside out.
Exactly.
So the one major thing I always tell parents, and Wendy does the same thing, you never know what's going on under the hood. You
Right.
can only see what's going on outside. So you have to take a holistic approach to your body, knowing what's going on under the hood,
Right.
and then making sure that everything outside matches what you can do inside, because
Absolutely.
those two things is longevity. You can try to do everything outside, and that's only going to get you so far.
Right.
But when you look at, you know, what am I doing from blood work to how does my body actually function,
Absolutely.
you know, then it translates to the game. And now we know that being an elite athlete is more than just working out.
Absolutely.
It's replenishing my body. It's knowing who to go to, knowing how to stretch, knowing how to recover. So all of those things are very important. And the game has changed. It's a lot faster now. So if you don't know how to recover, if you don't know how to build, you know, those fast twitch muscles and get stronger properly, you're going to always be behind.
Right.
So that's why it's so important to go to professionals to where they can guide you, because it's very hard to do things yourself and you can't see it and you don't really know how to manage that. So
Right.
it's extremely important, especially nowadays.
Absolutely. I think with all of the external things that go on as well, you know, with maybe not as much as high school, but with collegiate and professional athletics, the travel aspect also affects it.
Absolutely.
So you have to get in, you know, like you said, ahead of the things before you start to really, you know, hurt yourself. I see, you know, I check out, you know, we get the games early enough where we check out people warming up, and you can kind of see who's really in tune to warming up. And then you can see people that just take like 15 minutes. You know, a real warm-up is probably about 45 minutes.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. To get the body
To
primed
get
and ready.
right. You have to, you know, get these things warm up. The neurons, you know, it's deeper than just what you see on surface, just, you know, doing an A skip here and there. You know, those things you have to think about. And that's, you know, reason we got you back on, Wendy. IBT Youth Sports Therapy Program is something you've integrated now. So let's dive into that a little bit.
So one of the things that I've noticed, I have been a competitive athlete my whole life as well. So as a competitive athlete, I ended up working with a bunch of competitive athletes early in my career. I started, most of the time was with the retired athletes. Then it started with the current athletes. And what I was noticing were all of these same patterns, all these same injuries, where had I gotten a hold of them when they were developing, or even while they were still playing, whatever their long-term issues were would have either been zero, mitigated, or at least managed in a way where it's not what we're ending up seeing in these long-term retired athletes. So I'm a big believer of, if you see a problem, it's up to you to solve it. So I've been a trainer at American Indoor Sports Facility since '09. Tons of youth athletes there. So I decided that I was going to start a youth athlete program. So that's what I did about 1.5 years ago. Decided to specifically target that population. Part of the youth therapy program is developing that internal intuitive body connection. So often, as athletes are developing and trying and succeeding, you have aches, you have pains, you have tightness, but you got to ignore that when you're out there performing, when you're out there competing. That tension in your knee doesn't matter if you got to catch that guy, right? So the trick is to get these kids to understand what that feels like before that happens. And not only that, but be able to communicate that to somebody. So part of that is giving them a language, giving them also just someone that's going to believe them and not push them back out there if they're hurt. Like, I'm going to be able to help them. Part of that is enabling them and giving them a voice. They are the owners of their sessions, right? So when you're on my table as a youth athlete, you're a human first. You're an athlete second. So we worry about what your pain is. We worry about how we help you. You getting back on the field is honestly secondary to me. If that's where we get you, awesome, wonderful. But treating an athlete like a human first will ultimately get you that human performance that they're capable of.
Right.
So that's part of the youth sports therapy program, because so many coaches don't necessarily see your kid in that human form.
Right.
So it's to give them a voice. I give them language to when I'm working on them. If my pressure is too much, I tell them how to communicate to me something hurts. If they don't like something, right? It's all about this consent. I have a body zone chart that I show these kids, like where we're going to be working. We talk about what sports therapy even is, like why is this lady putting her hands on my muscles? All of this is so important because as these kids develop, as they get into high school, college, pro, they need to be advocates for their bodies. They need to be able to say, yes, this hurts in a way that I can foam roll or stretch, or no, Wendy taught me when it's like this, I need to take a day off, right? It's really getting them to understand those mechanisms. So it's a process, right? Like it's never like a first session, I'm going to teach you everything. It's just like learning a whole new routine, learning how your body moves, why your body moves. Now you got some pain, why you have pain, how we work with that pain. So it really goes deeper into, because I believe a more educated athlete is a better athlete. The more your brain can connect to your muscles, the better it's going to perform. That's kind of just, we're all nodding here, right? So getting that information and being a resource for that, a safe resource, and connecting with coaches and folks around my community has been a huge part of that too. So y'all know when you send your kids to me and they get IBT protocols, or if I have somebody that's working for me and I say, hey, this person is cool, y'all already know the kind of line I drew.
Right.
Y'all already know that Wendy takes this seriously.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's a part of why we all work together too, is we believe in nurturing these humans to be their best human potential. If that's an athlete, awesome. That may not even be an athlete.
Right.
You know, so we're a part of that journey.
Right.
And making sure that we're a good part and a guide for that journey.
Absolutely.
In each of our ways and our roles that we play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll bring this back, coaches. You know, it's funny how all of these things kind of connect, because this is something that we talk about all the time, you know, with, you know, the flex zone, you know, with coast-to-coast athletics training. I've, you know, been in the mud with coaching. You know, he takes the time to, it's not just about pushing. You know, I've been around it. You know, I could say myself, as you know, coaching, you know, I wanted you to push. I don't care about that. But that's something that you bring to the table that maybe people don't know, you know, unless they're in the trenches with it. You know, hey, you got to know your body. And I've heard you say that over and over and over. And being an advocate for your body, you have to communicate. That's one thing about Coach that I can say. He makes sure that he communicates with his athletes. Hey, are you really feeling this today? You know, taking the time. You know, that's something that you don't see very often. Just talk about that a little bit.
You know, it's funny you say that because, you know, talking to Clay Mack, you know, he and I
Shout out to Clay.
Man,
What's up, Coach
he
Mack?
and I have tons of conversations, and we feel like we're almost dinosaurs in this thing because, you know, everything is a rapid response. Everything is, you know, right now.
Yeah.
Versus that approach where, you know, I preach to parents and kids, this is a long-term process.
Right.
If you want greatness now, I'm not the guy for you. I want to build you to where you can last later.
Right.
Because, you know, if you're starting in middle school and younger, right, just a long journey. I don't care what records you break in elementary or middle school or early high school. That means absolutely nothing if you can't get paid for it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It means absolutely nothing. And the one thing I really stress to kids and parents is you have to take ownership of your body.
Right.
I'm not a remote control that's just going to tell you, hey, do this, do this, do that, because you become a robot.
Right.
I want you to know how your body moves. It's yours.
Yeah.
So you have to take ownership. You have to know how you move.
Right.
Right. And the only way to do that is to give feedback.
Right.
And get feedback.
Right.
Because now I have those aha moments where I have to actually think and process information.
Right.
You know, and unfortunately, a lot of parents and a lot of kids, I want it right now. I want to be great right now.
Absolutely.
And you the trade-off is you may not have gas in the tank later.
Right.
Because nobody knows that window.
Right.
Right. So the key is to keep you, you know, strong, relevant, but smarter, to where when you get to college, those strength and conditioning coaches are like, whoa, this guy is very strong. This young lady is very strong, but smart.
Right.
And I have a whole lot I can do to build you up.
Right.
I don't even know what to do with you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that is the key. And I think with all the injuries that are happening now very early, right, it is evidence of people wanting it too early.
Right.
Because you're doing too much too soon.
Right.
And not understanding how to utilize what you have.
Right.
How does it translate, right? So for me, I want you to learn the skill, but then I also want you to learn how to translate it to your field of sport, right? Because if it don't translate, what good is it?
Right.
So it has to make sense to what you're doing.
Right.
And that's just, if I train one kid and that's my approach, that ain't gonna change. So it's important because I know it works.
Yeah.
I know that when a kid leaves Wendy and they get on the field, when a kid leaves me, they're gonna be smarter, and all the other stuff is gonna catch up.
Right.
Because if I know how to move efficiently, the game is gonna slow down for me.
Right.
As long as I understand the game itself. So that's always important. And just, the injuries.
Right.
None of my kids from track to football had those crazy injuries growing up because we took the time to go over everything and understanding how to move and taking the time. I don't care what you're feeling like, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we're going to build our bodies before we start going. And some days you just do nothing. You
Right.
just warm up and you pay attention to the kid. Just
Right.
like she said, you're human first. So
Yeah.
just like your son,
Yeah.
we going to talk. And if you're not feeling it, hey, we're going to shift.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because every day isn't about me just throwing
Pounding
you into
it.
a wall.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
some days you have to shift because the mental got to be there.
Right.
If you're not into it, it's not going to do you any good.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing, I've learned, from a training and coaching perspective. Of course, no, I'm not really in that bag anymore, but, as a player coming up as a kid, in our era, they pushed us.
That's what we learned.
That's what we learned.
That's what we learned.
Right. So,
no choice.
Right. We had no choice. It was a water hose. They had one of those long things, and they poked holes in them, and they turned it on, and we drunk out of them 4 or 5 at a time. They didn't have a cow back then.
No.
So, the things are different approaches, and that's why, I brought that to you, and that's why we got you back today.
Oh, I appreciate that.
It's because, it's the different mindset and those things that go into it. And, as we go across the state, the country, watching and observing, you see these little minute things that if they changed it, could be the difference in performance. And you see it every week across the country. The preventative part, sometimes it's not there. Like you said, we want instant gratification all the time. We want to have it right now, right then, and to create a buzz off of what you do. When sometimes that goes back to having a team of things, and
Absolutely.
those guys or girls are successful when they have that kind of community aspect around them. You see it all the time.
But the pressure from, everything that's going on, the
Right.
pressure from, getting recruited, getting the likes, getting this, the pressure forces people to say, what should I? Should I trade later for now?
Right. Right.
And that's the tough part. There's no reason you should see 7th, 8th graders, 9th graders with ACL injuries. There's no reason for that on the planet.
The injuries are really ridiculous, honestly.
There is
It's
no
pretty
reason.
crazy. Yeah.
No reason for that.
Right.
Most kids can barely touch their toes in middle school.
Right.
It's I don't understand it.
Right.
But again, I want to have the show muscles versus understanding that pliability, flexibility is going to last me a whole lot longer. I
Right.
just want to throw weights around and not even realizing these kids don't even understand that college coaches now are starting to move away from that. They don't
Right.
care what you squat.
Right.
Can it translate? They
Right.
don't care what you bench press.
Right.
Can it translate?
Right.
If you can throw up 400 pounds, can you pancake somebody?
Right.
Otherwise, that 400 pounds means absolutely nothing.
Well, you can throw 400 pounds and can't move 5-10 yards. You know what I'm saying? And that's the things, from a scouting perspective, when I'm looking at something, and that's why I like to get the games early, because I can tell who can play when they warm up.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's the movement factor.
Absolutely.
That, I will say this, from games this week, guys, parents, talk to your kids. You never know who's watching.
Never know.
You never know
And
who's
recording.
watching. And recording. You take 2 or 3 plays off, that could be, your offer right out the gate right
That's
there.
it.
It just takes one person. But, that's a whole nother thing. But, that's just me thinking out loud because, when it
They
comes
need to
to
hear
move,
that.
they need to hear it.
They need to hear that.
I wanted to get on the PA and just scream where I was at. I'm like, ugh, of course, we got multiple people on the sidelines looking, and we all agree. It's just you can't take plays off. You can't take moments off. If you're that guy, you got to be that guy full throttle, 110%. You know, it's you know, you can't take breaks.
And the eyes will trick you. Parents, what he's saying is, you might look at your child the whole game and see 1 or 2 great plays and say, oh, my baby's good, my baby's good.
Right.
But then those 15 plays that they took off where they didn't go full,
Right.
where they didn't go 100%, those are the plays that recruiters are watching.
That's what
Those
they
count
watching.
too.
They count.
And then you say, well, why isn't my baby getting looked at? Those plays.
Right.
Simple as that.
Right.
Those plays that they're taking off, whether it's in practice or whether it's in the game, those
Yeah.
are the ones that matter the most,
Yeah.
which is why every play I compete is so important.
So important. It's stressed and iron sharpens iron. All of those things that outwork yesterday, you got to do it. You know what I'm saying? So
if you want to be that guy.
if you want to be that guy in whatever you do, really.
In
you know
whatever
what I'm
you
saying?
do.
Oh yeah, I mean football is just an analogy for life.
Right.
You
It
know,
is.
you can apply every single thing we say, aim
Right.
it towards whatever that goal is. If you're
Right.
not that dude, then you're either not or you're gonna have to work to be.
Right.
Nobody gets to decide that but you.
No, it's a you thing, and you know what you got where you got your feet grounded. You can't get stuck in the mud. You know what I'm saying?
And the biggest thing is going to Wendy, coming to me, you have to be disciplined
Consistent.
and consistent. And I think, again, a lot of people don't want to trade that off because they don't want to do the monotonous over and over. They don't want to
It's
live
boring.
through that Kobe Bryant mentality
Right.
of the boring over and over and over. But that's
Absolutely.
what's going to keep you longer.
Right.
You're going to be held accountable, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to be pushed in a sense of you have to learn something new, right? And a lot of people don't want to be in that situation because it's like, ooh, is that going to help me right now?
Right.
So again, we got that trade-off.
Right,
you know?
right. I mean, and we see and discuss these things all the time in conversations. And, you know, what we're telling you today here is, you know, probably if you go back and rewind at the YouTube channel, these are the type of things. We're giving you the game right now. You know what I'm saying? You know, if you put all of these things in your bag, you might be successful. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying?
Got to do it.
Well, it's like a
Gotta do it.
scavenger hunt, but if you know how to put it all together, then you get the prize at the end.
Pieces to the puzzle.
You know?
Right. Yeah, it's just like Cracker Jack. You know, you used to go in there and get the little prize out of it. You try to eat everything out of there. You know what I'm saying? Maybe people don't know about Cracker Jack, but y'all did.
They brought it back out.
They did.
They changed the boxes and everything.
Right.
Oh, no.
There's a prize in the middle, but you got to eat everything. You know what I'm
Or
saying?
dump it out.
Or
Dump
yeah.
it out, right? Put it in
But
the bowl.
that's not the message we're trying to send
No,
right
that's
now,
not
right?
what we're saying. You know, you gotta have the hunger to get to the prize. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. There you go. That's it right there. Hunger
yeah.
to get to the prize.
Right. You got to be hungry. You know what I'm saying? You know. So talk about your experience. You got a chance. Shout out to Clay Mack. You know, you're you know, with the Aces 7-on-7 team. You know, we've talked about this before, but this is a different situation where you're seeing injuries. You know, doing treatment in game or right off the sideline. You know, I thought that was an interesting thing, something that you stepped into that was kind of new for you.
Yeah. So at my gym, like I said, there's a whole bunch of top level coaches that operate throughout Dallas. One of the 7-on-7 teams, the Texas Aces, they gave me a great opportunity. Shout out to Coach Lee, Coach Darius, Coach Donnie, Coach Q. I appreciate y'all. We ended up working together. I would go to their practices. I ended up going to one of their tournaments. So I was literally sidelined during games, during practices, and these kids were encouraged to come see me if they had knee pain, hip pain, anything where they're like, hey, this is kind of prohibiting my play. And that gave me a really great view to see what these kids are really dealing with. If you don't have anyone to talk about that, why are you going to talk about it, right? The message is you got to be that guy, right? So there's these two conflicting messages that we're trying to send these kids, like know when to stand for yourself, but also you got to be that dude. So while these kids are out there trying to do what they got to do, I was seeing what they're really dealing with, and also seeing the kind of impact that we're able to make in the moment, as opposed to waiting for them to come see me the next week, or me not knowing if the work that we did actually had an effect or worked on them. It was very much like when I was in the military on the flight line, B-52 bombers, right? Like when those jets are trying to launch, one of those engines shuts down, we got to show up, get it ready to launch in that moment. We don't get to go home and figure it out and then come back. So it's this very high pressure but also really exciting and fun for all of us to be able to, I essentially embedded into this team. So that was really awesome. And then I was able to give this report to these coaches so they understood what kind of pain their athletes were dealing with, able to speak to the parents so they knew who to come to now that they knew that their kids had pain. I would have parents who would ask them, oh, do your kids have any issues? And they're like, no, you're fine. They're fine. Yet while the game's going, they're coming and telling me they're at a pain level of a 9 in their hip flexor. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of nuance too that play through the toughness, but also don't go too hard. So trying to give a balance there. And for myself, someone who's been a competitive athlete, someone who values that intensity, I'm not trying to tell you, don't go back out there. That's not going to be what I'm going to tell you. That's your body. But I am going to teach you how to listen to that body. I'm going to teach you what those signals of your body are telling you. If your body tells you don't go, you have to not go.
Well, you're fighting against a lot of kids, whether it's middle school, high school, collegiate, pro. You're fighting against that thing of, one, my manhood. Two, if I say I'm hurt, then
will you play again?
Next man up.
Yeah.
So of course.
So that's that tricky, which is again why it's so important for preventive maintenance.
Exactly.
If you do it right early, then the time that you're away, we know it's inevitable that you're going to get banged up. But the time that you're away could be limited based on how well prepared you are.
Right.
So that's what parents really have to understand. So kids don't want to say, I'm hurt, because they don't want to be like, well, you know what, next man up, and then you're sitting forever.
Right. Well, and then that kid makes the play, that kid gets the scholarship, blah, 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 right?
So it's a tricky,
it's absolutely
a very tricky scenario.
It's just a part of the strategy as everything else we have to do,
absolutely.
Right? And knowing when to make that move. Because if you were going out there at a pain level of a 5, that's one thing. But are you going out there at a 9? So
and 9, you're not going to be of value.
Well, and that's just it too, right? So so technically, you're taking away from your team by and yourself, because you're going out there not being able to play at your best. So the film you do get is you derping around at a pain level of a 9.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And what if that's the one where you get hurt? That's the one where you now stumble, and that's the video that they got.
Right.
So it's understanding how these long-term situations can turn into these consequences. But these conversations are really just, as far as I've seen and everything, we're really just starting to have, right? Most of the time people don't value what kids are experiencing, but because we're seeing we ultimately want them to make it to these higher levels, we have to start early. I was working on a 12-year-old kid who had a pain level of an 8, 9. We'll get into that talking about Clay. He had to pull him off because he was limping around trying to move around, getting instruction from Clay. How are you going to move for a top level coach like that if you have a pain level of a 7, 8, or 9? That entire session just got wasted if you can't move properly for him. And you reinforced whatever those weird mechanical actions were. So it's definitely just part of the web you have to weave to be this top level athlete. It's part of the investment.
It's a mindset shift. So
for sure, it's part of the grind.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
No. It's the mindset shift is what you're bringing to the table, and making them understand that you got to think about this differently from a different perspective. That's going to help you later on. So that's the part where you're trying to make sure that they understand. Change the way you think, but that goes from top all the way down.
Right.
Well, and we're seeing now that people are valuing the longevity of these athletes, right? And for themselves. So they understand why this investment is so crucial from the beginning. A lot of this stuff just takes time to play out. Like we hadn't seen what it means to drink water out of holes in a hose versus being able to have better hydration, right? Like it's evolution. So making sure that your body, your kid, like kids are faster, kids are bigger, kids are smarter, and that's supposed to be that way. So we need to be ready for that evolution shift by, preparing and being ready for that. So
right, and not having that old mindset is, shut
right.
up, you're not hurt, you're just, you're not injured.
Well, and just the whole like, well, this is the way I used to do it, this is the way it was done for me, so this is the way I'm going to do it for you. That's the wrong reason to do anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so.
Question.
Yes.
Good job, CJ Moss. CJ Moss asked, "What is do you have insight on Travis Hunter? What do you think about his injury and?"
Oh,
What do you
okay.
think about that?
So little bit of a disclosure, as much as I know about football bodies, I don't know that much about the everyday to day things. So Travis Hunter, he plays for Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
For Deion Sanders.
got hit in the
Oh my
sternum.
gosh, I love me some Deion, that whole situation.
No doubt.
So what do I think about him? What, like being out still?
The
or
injury.
The injury.
What is this
itself.
injury?
He had a bruised or lacerated liver, I believe.
Oh, gosh.
So he took a blunt force trauma to.
I saw the hit.
Right,
Elbow,
it was blunt force trauma to the abdomen. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
His liver was bruised or had a laceration.
Bad form, by the way.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
Okay.
So I think CJ's question is, from a therapeutic standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about the injury? Not necessarily maybe recovery. CJ's shout out to CJ Moss. He's got a show here, Free Game.
Thanks for the question, CJ.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
He's also a licensed therapist. massage
Oh,
therapist
okay,
as well.
okay, great.
So I think his question is more of, what do you think about the injury? Is there some kind of preventive maintenance that you could have done for that? Of course, a blunt force trauma.
Right,
blow,
yeah.
That's happening so fast and at so fast speed that you're getting.
It's like
hit.
being in a car accident.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Nothing
Right.
you can do about
But with a car that's mad at you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that type of injury is par for the course of the game, right? It's part of why people watch. You know what I mean? There was half of the country that was happy to see that happen. The other half was mad. So the work that sports therapy would have with that would be making sure his body was already ready for that injury.
Right.
And based on the level of that athlete, he's always ready. But Deion, you need some sports therapy. Call IBT, I promise.
No doubt.
Y'all need me, for real.
Yeah.
In reality, you would not massage based on that. No, that's recovery of the liver. That's
Right.
time, right?
Yeah.
Like we all saw him messaging Deion trying to get back on the field. And Deion did the thing he's supposed to do and said, "No, bro, like I value you.
Absolutely.
I value your future. I value the fact that we will have you again. You just take the time. I love you," right? Like that care is what we need to be seeing from coaches, because that kid is an ace, right? Like that kid is the ace. That kid's like a deuce on Joker, deuce type of level, right? If we're talking that type of situation. So if you have a kid like that already physically prepared for that, because it's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen. We all saw what happened to DeMar.
Right.
I can do all the beautiful sports therapy I can do. I'm a miracle worker, but I can't help you when someone comes at your chest. You know what I mean? Like, now are your pecs balanced? That's great, right? Are they extra tight for when your heart needs to beat better? Like, there's ways to have a better ideal body, but there is definitely limitations,
Right.
of course. Yeah.
Right.
So, I think he needs to take the time to recover.
Absolutely.
And especially for a talent like that, like,
Yeah.
normally the game waits for nobody, but like you'll be able to catch back up as soon as
Absolutely.
it's time, sir, right?
Yeah.
Like that type of level of athleticism, but also you need to preserve that level.
Right.
You don't put him back out there until he's ready.
Right.
Because if you put him out there before he's ready and something else happens, and now everybody knows where his weak spot is.
Right. Exactly.
Everybody knows where that kid's weak spot is,
Right.
And if you don't let him recover, people were already coming for him anyway.
Absolutely.
So the fact that he's that guy to the point where he's the target, so even more crucial that you have him recover fully.
I see a rib cage in his immediate future.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Flap jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his immediate future, I see
Yeah.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
He's gonna have to have that.
and that's just the nature of the game.
Yeah.
Nature of the beast. And even Travis said that about the guy that made the play or post play tackle, however you want to see it. He's like, that's the nature, right? Like, he's not mad. Deion's not mad. Like, and also like, y'all get each other all revved up to go out there and knock each other's heads off. Do you think something like that's not going to happen?
No. Well, and
so
that's also the thing. I think maybe the next week the Nick Chubb injury. Minka Fitzpatrick. That's what he gets paid to do. He can't go up there and love tap him. And people, I guess, the media or people that really don't understand what's going on the field, take it kind of out of context as far as him being malicious or being dirty. And that's not. If you see Minka Fitzpatrick since he was in college. He's the same guy.
Same guy.
It's the same guy.
Same
He's
guy.
very consistent in what he does. It was a bang play. It's happened at 100 miles an hour. But the thing about it, preventive maintenance, Nick Chubb, the rest of his body is in top tier shape. If you know anything, watch Nick Chubb social media stuff. He's in tip top shape. It was a bang play. His foot got stuck in the ground. Now, if his foot cleat doesn't get stuck in the ground, probably just have a strain, and him coming in with his full body, the inertia, the force of that, you have to understand what that is involved. So, injuries happen. We know they're going to happen. What we're talking about today, what involves IBT, is preventive maintenance, and what involves what Coach does, preventive maintenance to get yourself ready for an injury, less recovery time, and then you're going to be back on the field. But if you don't take care of all of these things in that circle, then when you do get injured, you'll be out later. You know what I'm saying? And I think also another thing about Wendy is the holistic approach.
Absolutely.
We're not talking about pain medication and stuff like that. There's a holistic approach to what you do.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Well, and that's just it. Like, there are mechanisms of the body that are there for us to withstand these forces. And there are mechanisms of the body that are there for us to be balanced, build the right muscle, build the right speed. Football just happens to be the framework in which we see it exhibited, right? And everybody seems to be into it. It's super intense. It's awesome. It's brilliant. Like, it's literally war on a football field, right? On turf. So it's so compelling. But being able to make sure that these people are ready for those moments, it's just like putting a roll cage in a race car, right? Like, you're gonna crash.
Absolutely.
So, or someone's gonna crash into you. You
Right.
can drive perfectly,
Yeah.
and someone's gonna crash into you, right?
Right.
Or the tire blows out, not because anybody did anything wrong, but that's the nature of racing, right? There's just certain risks that come with this situation, and if you want to be at a top level taking these risks, then it's high risk, high reward, but also high investment.
Absolutely.
And it's the grind. It's every single penny you're willing to put in your piggy bank when it comes time to pull that savings out. How much did you put in there?
Right.
How much do you have to spend when it comes time to call on that talent?
Right.
Or when somebody runs into you, you know what I mean? Like, what kind of shape is your body already in?
Right.
And also, like, if you get injured, now you have to worry about recovery, and you have to now worry about getting that into your routine. If you already have self-care, already have therapy, already have a resource, already have this as part of your thing, then it's just part of it, right? So this is just par for the course, as opposed to, well, now I got to go worry about it. Now I got to now put this into my schedule. Now I have to convince my kid to make sure that he's foam rolling, or whatever the case may be. Already having these habits part of the discipline before the injury is just another way to reinforce this as they grow. And just discipline in general for habits, you know what I mean? So if you know to take care of your body, or Wendy told you when your hip feels this way, stretch and foam roll like this. You know what I mean? Like, those mechanisms reinforce so much as these kids are learning above and beyond football, So making sure that we reinforce patterns and thought patterns like that help the body, that help learning. It's all a part of it. Because when you're out on that field, you don't have time to think about all those little tiny nuances. Your brain has to already be programmed.
Absolutely.
It already has to be conditioned. All of that has to already been built. Those neurons already have to have been connected. Versus in that moment, it's like, well, now what do I do?
Right.
So it's it's bigger than anybody ever thought when it comes to getting a person to excel versus another person that also wants to excel.
Right.
And adding another layer to what you said is the holistic approach. Parents also look at the sports psychology part. We've already been through this on this show, where we've had a kid go through injury after injury after injury, get an opportunity to play at the next level,
Right.
and couldn't make it happen because of false expectations appearing real, which means fear. He couldn't play or deal with the contact because he was afraid of the injury. So the holistic approach is take care of the body inside out, and mentally, what do we do in a situation where I am hurt? How do I come back from that, versus just saying, suck it up, man up, and play? So those tools, all of those things have to, and that kid is still struggling mentally right now with that. with those injuries. And there are kids now, shout out to my guys, both of Noah's. One was unfortunately shot in Houston a week ago by a young man that he was just minding his own business on his way home. A young kid shot through the car, just playing around with the gun, and he's recovering right now. Another one of my kids, who's by the name is Noah, had his collarbone broke, just went through surgery today. So those kids, me having to deal with them and talk to them every day through those situations is working on the mental. How do you come back from that?
Right.
And how do you understand that, how do I go back into this game that I have to play that's violent
Absolutely.
and say, ooh, I'm worried about, is this going to happen again? I can't play this game at full tilt if I'm worried about getting hurt. So that's where all of those things are very important. So we have to look at, again, the holistic approach, because you want your babies to last. Period.
Absolutely.
Well, and not just that, but like at some point, everybody plays their last game.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
I have worked, this is the reason why I'm working with the youth athletes. Like when you asked me how I got into this, there are people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, they tell you pain is temporary, glory is forever. No, it's not. No, it's not. When you're coming to see me and your back hurts because you got pounded into the ground for 20 years as a competitive athlete, nobody cares about your stories anymore.
Absolutely.
Nobody cares. You know what I mean? They care about if you can't come with them on a trip because your back hurts. You know what I mean? Like you have longevity for your life, for your next generation, for whatever you want to do next.
Right.
Like, don't you want to keep being able to lift weights? Don't you want to keep being able to be a functional, pretty badass athlete past that last game? So it's understanding that this is part of the journey, right? And it's such a huge defining part for everybody. But at some point, Tom Brady played his last game. We didn't think it would happen, folks.
Right.
We really didn't.
Right.
He would have been the one proving me wrong with this statement. But everybody plays their last game.
Right.
So, and that's okay. That's okay, right? So do what you got to do, but also remember, like, it's going to define so much of your life, these actions and these decisions you make. And knowing how to take care of yourself, knowing how to advocate for yourself, knowing how your body works, these are skills that I promise you are going to come in handy. Y'all know as adults now, if you could have had somebody help you when you were 16, 17, make sure that you didn't have your knees broken. Wouldn't you like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's why we're making these changes now, right? Because we're seeing what happens to the longer term athletes. And y'all are like, man, I really don't want that for the next generation, which is how it should be.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's been awesome being able to be a part of that.
And speaking of Tom Brady and LeBron, real quick, the reason why they lasted so long is because they take very well care of their body.
Yeah, the TB12 thing.
All of that.
LeBron's always doing something.
So if you want to last, study those guys.
Study those guys. And we talked about Coach Prime and Deion Sanders. That's why Shador's very successful right now. He linked up to the TB12 and been mentored by Tom Brady. Things, but like-minded people think alike.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And
there's a roadmap.
There's a roadmap, and that's what we kind of do here On Your Mark shows. We try to give you that roadmap to success, with the people we bring in. Of course, myself and Coach here every week. And Wendy's part of the team. Just because you don't see her, don't mean she's not.
Ooh, I'm behind the scenes.
She's behind the scenes. We talk all the time.
I'm always up to stuff.
Working. Before we get out of here, share your social medias where everybody can get in touch with you and everything.
So on Facebook and Instagram, just integratedbiomechanictherapy.com. You'll be able to find me, message me, questions, talk to me about your kids, anything you want to know. You're probably in pain too. I work on parents as well. I literally work on all the populations. It's not just athletes. I work with the disabled population. I'm now really focusing on prenatal folks. So anyone that owns a human body, please come see me. Invest and honestly, like the goal is to make it equitable and for people to be able to access it. So please come see me.
Well, absolutely, man. Listen, we appreciate you chopping it up with us today here on the On Your Mark show. You'll be back. We'll probably do this every 3 or 4 months, just because
Sounds
things
good.
change,
For sure.
And we have to elevate as well. You know what I'm saying? So, Coach, before we get out of here, talk about the book. It's doing well on Amazon. Talk about that real quick.
It's now available in paperback. I'm waiting on Barnes and Nobles to approve it.
That's dope.
So we can push it through Barnes and Nobles. Listen, I just got off the phone with Tony Words. Shout out to Tony Words. And he'll tell you guys, if you don't believe me, go on Facebook, look him up, TonyWurz. Pray for him. He's going through some health issues. My guy.
Absolutely.
Son is having some, recruiting things. 15-minute conversation changed his mentality on what recruiting looks like. Aha moments galore. 15 minutes. Listen, I know it's a lot of people out there that can help with recruiting. What I bring to the table is just the way that I approach it, of making it make sense for you. A lot of those things I talk about in the book, which you can get on Amazon. The Recruiting Blueprint, look it up by my name, Stephon Johnson. Common sense approach, and that's all it is just making it make sense. That investment is $20, and it really gives you just a insight on what it is right now. These are things that me talking to recruiters every day, coaches every day, understanding what it is that they're looking for. I pass that information on to you, talking to other recruiters. And then on the deeper level, the consulting part is where I dig deep into you and your kid and really give you a roadmap for you, not anybody else's. The problem we have is we get caught up in somebody else's journey.
Right.
And that's what throws us off track, because we're focused on what somebody else is doing versus having a plan for your own particular journey.
Right.
So that's kind of what I help map out, including having all of these things in place. How to do the marketing, who to go to for the body, all of those things is so important for you and your child. So please, it very simple.
Well, to have it all curated in one resource like that you can highlight, make notes on, right? Like for me, I'm a book person. Having a phone is cool and everything, but having a tangible book that you can actually hold, flip through, discuss with people,
make notes,
and not only that, but it's all curated in one space, as opposed to let me put all this into one folder on my computer and try to dig through and all that. That's a brilliant idea. Good job, Stephon.
Absolutely.
Wendy approves.
Man, listen, check it out, man, and listen. It's a thing where you have to be in the know. Everything today is about investing in yourself, investing in your body's your temple. If you don't put back into your temple, then you can't be successful. That's with anything that you do in life. Everything's a grind, but you have to grind the right way. And I think that's kind of what we've been summing it up today. It's big. It's bigger than what you see on the surface. You have to start within, and that's kind of what we're talking about today. And every week here on the On Your Mark Show, listen, tap in next Wednesday. Definitely follow us here. Follow me on Twitter at MarkHen44 and Instagram at Mark_Hen44. Listen, we're doing big things. Coast to Coast Athletics. Share, like, subscribe. We'll be back at you next Wednesday, live from the Fishbowl Radio
Appreciate
Network.
y'all.
Of course, tap in with Maynard Mike. Take us out, man. We'll holler at you next week.
This theme song is fire too. Oh my God.
Hey, ready, set, go. It's time to hit the mark. This that show you need to know about. We set ourselves apart. Sports talk at the pinnacle. We got all the knowledge, covering every level, helping these young men get to college. Got the coverage of a DB, vision of a QB coming at you like a DN. Let all of that sink in. Working in the weight room, we can't take no days off. Doing drills when they not looking, that's what make us stand out. Don't worry about how much time is left, we got it planned out. Execution, elite footwork, nasty when we running routes. Accuracy off the chain, we've been on it from the start. Reaching for the sky, hitting the bullseye, we on the mark.